Engadine, Southern Hemisphere, Overlook City, October 3087. It had been a very long time since anyone had seen a Lyran dropship. The change happened so slowly following the tumultuous events of the Word of Blake that people just didn't take notice. Access to off-planet goods declined, tourism slowly dropped off, and times got hard. But by the time I was 18, I couldn't remember the last time I saw a Lyran official in a uniform. I'm sure they were still around, but any authority that those uniforms brought with them had faded. They likely gathered dust in closets now. Taking a job in the Planetary Defense Force was an easy choice. I was built, like my grandmother used to say, like a brick shithouse. I was big and ready on my feet, which made me a useful platform for the portable man-pack PPC I was carrying up into the chilly hills outside of the city where I was born. There's always some snow on the ground here due to the planet's cool climate, but over the past few weeks those snow patches have been growing. I nudged a pile of snow with my boot and left the expected imprint. It was going to be a long, boring weekend of training in this glorified camping trip. I don't know who was the first to spot the dropship. Gradually voices began to cry out, and when I looked over, I followed the pointing hands up into the cloudy sky that glowed with the fire of a ship re-entry into the atmosphere. I counted the seconds as we waited for the dropship to break cloud cover. It had been so long since anyone had deemed our city worthy of a visit. If it was the Lyrans, perhaps some of those uniforms and closets would be dusted off and ironed in haste. Many across the city squinted and looked up at the descending leopard dropship, trying to identify the markings on it. It was much too far away for me to see, though a few of the other Defense Force soldiers claimed to see everything from the Lyran blue fist to a skull and crossbones. The chatter was cut off by the lieutenant, who told us to pack our gear. Our training was being cut short. We're going to report to the barracks on the double. After clearing the camp and slinging the PPC, we began the 2-hour hike downhill just as the dropship landed, presumably at the spaceport on the far side of the city. We trudged, and the weather started to deteriorate. White snowflakes began to fall, and soon those flakes became flurries. We were halfway back, but could no longer see the city. Even as we hit the agricultural outskirts, all we could see was the shadows of our very tallest buildings. When we crossed the main thoroughfare into the city, that's when the thunder began to roll over us. At least that's what we thought it was, until the flashes began to accompany each thunder crack. Slowly, it dawned on everyone in the unit that the flashes of light were explosions and not a weather event. The lieutenant yelled at us on the comms to move like our families depended on it, and we pushed even faster into the city. He wasn't wrong. Our families did depend on it. Rumors from other settlements on the planet included warnings about raiders taking people off planet, never to be seen again. If this was one of those raids, I wasn't going to miss the opportunity to hit back. Even as the snow continued to pile up higher, we moved faster. We crossed officially deeper into the city, moving past light industrial and commercial structures. I was tired, my legs were burning, but still I moved with purpose. The sound and lights from explosions intensified. Every one of them made me worry more about my family, friends, and others who might be hurt, killed, or taken. Finally, after what felt like a march through a frozen hell, our 21-soldier unit turned the corner and bared witness to what was happening in the blocks surrounding the spaceport. Through the swirling, blown snow, I was frozen in awe as 4 Battlemechs slowly circled the Periphery, firing weapons into the city. Bright blue bolts of energy stitched through the concrete like it was papier-mâché. Missiles streaked into vehicles and any of the spaceport defense forces that bunched together and tried to put up a defense. I immediately recognized 2 of the mechs as they were nearly identical to each other. The iconic Marauder design was often seen on propaganda posters, mass media, and even childhood holovids. Their hunched alien-like construction made them easy to ID. It would have been awe-inspiring if they weren't firing on colonists. Instead, it was terror manifest. Another mech looked familiar to me, though I couldn't quite place it. It was also hunched and had 4 protruding barrels on its arms. The azure lightning pouring from them was like his own man-pack PPC, only on a grand scale. The team had to duck down behind the burning wreckage of a warehouse to avoid being spotted. I glanced over at the lieutenant, who busied himself trying to bring up command on the tactical channels. I couldn't wait. We needed to do something. I grabbed my gun, made sure it was tightly cinched to my back, and told my squad we're headed out. I doubt the lieutenant even noticed as we slipped out from cover and made our way onto the spaceport grounds. There was wreckage of several aerofighters and civilian aircraft strewn across the grounds. Warehouses and hangars were smashed, burning, or completely collapsed. The air stank of burning jet fuel and melted plastic. Finally close enough for a shot, the 7 of us prepped for what was likely going to be a suicidal attack. I charged up my PPC, setting it on the bent and charred remains of a truck engine, while 2 others readied their one-shot SRM launchers. The closest mech was this huge mech I could not identify, so I nodded toward it and said, "Left leg, aim for the heel." We couldn't stop these mechs, but we can make sure we left our mark. Counting down from 3, 2, 1, I gently squeezed the trigger, and instantly the moisture in my eyes dried up, my ears popped, and a bolt of azure blue streaked from the barrel of my gun into the heel of the attacking mech. The artificial lightning stitched its way across several feet of the armor and support structure. Boiling armor smoked just before one of the 2 SRMs struck in the same location. The second missile flew through the mech's legs and then corkscrewed into the ground. The missile blast ripped metal with a horrible screech. The mech seemed to stumble step and then slowly turned in our direction. By that point, we were already running for the safety of the alleyway in the distance. I risked a glance back, seeing the mech we hit leveling its arms in our direction. My legs burned with every running step. We weren't going to make it. Just 50 feet from the alley, the 3 squad mates in front of me evaporated. Not died or fell over, simply ceased to be in a wave of blue fire. I crumbled to my stomach, praying that the beam would spare me. After a few seconds, I opened my eyes and rolled over, hoping to catch one last glimpse of the clouds above. Instead, I saw the massive silhouette of the 4th mech loom over and blot out the sky. Every step seemed to cause a mini earthquake, shaking the rubble under my body. It was a mech that I had only heard about and seen rarely in a few old holovids, an ancient-looking mech that looked more monster than machine. My brain told me to get up and keep running, but my body refused to budge. I could only lay there and stare up at the mech's massive clawed hands. Each of them seemed more than capable of slicing a Battlemech into 2. The beast took another step, and then my vision was twice obscured. Now, I only saw the bottom of its right foot. It would be the last thing I ever saw. A big thank you for sticking through this video and listening to the story. I'd love to know what you think about these 4 mechs and their mysterious arrival on this new planet. Let me know down in the comments below if you like this sort of thing, if you wanted me to do it with other lances and stars that I make. Take care, be awesome, make the world a slightly better place today and tomorrow.